I've been involved with the TAK ecosystem for about 8 years now. Started off at AFRL as a junior lieutenant or a senior second lieutenant, depending on how you look at it. I showed up my first day, I think it was April 3rd of 2013, and I meet this mad scientist named Ralph Kohler, and I walk in the door, everybody's scuttling off to some get-together, and someone introduces me to Ralph and says, Ralph, meet Ryan, Ryan, meet Ralph. Ralph says, what do you do? I said, well, I like to code. And he's like, can you do Java? And I said, yeah, sure, I love Java. Ralph says, come work with us. We need another coder on this new program called TAK. And so that set off a journey that is really hard to describe. It took me all over the country. It's taken me actually to industry. It's brought me back to the government side in a way. I'd say over the past few years, my career arc, my passions have, I guess, broadened from TAK. So they've broadened from just the end user device, the mobile device, to being about bigger themes like user-centered design, continuous delivery, doing these things at scale, doing them well, doing them for many, many users. And so you can imagine the thrill that I'm experiencing now, where I come back to the government as a federal civilian this summer to SOCOM. Josh leaves the government, asks me, do you want to be involved with the TAK Product Center? I said, I'd love to be involved. They made a decision while I was on paternity leave that I would lead the TAK Product Center. That's how those things go sometimes. The staff at the Product Center makes it what it is. They are phenomenal. They are pipe hitters. They get after it every day, and every day is a true team effort. And so I specifically want to thank Charlie for putting on this event. If Charlie doesn't step up and make this the phenomenal experience that it is for everybody here and in person, this just doesn't happen. Charlie's doing this kind of thing every day at the Product Center. So I just want to give Charlie a round of applause. Thank you, Charlie. We've got, of course, more staff that all aces. They're going to come up and tell you about different aspects of the Product Center over the course of this week. So we come into me being at the Product Center, not anything that was on my personal horizon, not anything I was going to turn down either, because TAK is what I've done in many ways. And TAK community has been very good to me. I've tried to invest in TAK myself. What I'm going to share with you today is a vision for where we think the next 10 years of TAK lies. It was done in some coordination with Alan Yoshida. I don't think you're going to see a mirror of his brief. I think you're going to see complementary themes between his brief and really, hopefully, the majority of things that you see throughout this week. We're going to look at why something like continuous delivery matters to the TAK ecosystem. We've got this great family of platforms, TAK and WinTAK and TAK Server and beyond. We're going to look at how those products will continue to be matured both through features and also through the empowerment of developers and of users to deliver faster and with increasingly higher quality. The real driver here, to be perfectly candid, is the great power competition landscape that we face right now. If we go into a conflict right now, we're going to find ourselves in a lot of trouble. Many open source assessments will bring you to that conclusion readily. We view TAK as a key enabler to addressing that adversary and that kind of threat posture that we need to be at, that we need to face. And we view software, specifically the TAK ecosystem, the TAK family of platforms, as a key enabler, if not the key enabler to actually competing in and winning in a great power conflict. So without further ado, we're gonna walk through this. We'll open it up for questions at the end. I'll try to exercise some discipline and not talk for too long, give everybody a chance to kind of poke holes in, ask questions, ask for more depth. I'll be around through Friday afternoon, so certainly invite any and all sidebars you'd like to engage in. If you're online, thank you for carving time out of your days. I know if you're online, it's for many reasons, and so definitely feel free to reach out. We'll have contact info at the end here on the last slide. But before we get into any of the numbers, any of the vision, we just want to make sure we recalibrate all of us. TAK has always been, is, and always will be about the user. We do what we do emphatically, unequivocally to enable the user to generate an effect, to maintain situational awareness, and ultimately improve lethality and safety of operations, whether those operations are military or federal or of another variety. Improve safety of the user, improve the lethality if that's what it calls for. So you're going to see every time we have a chance to interact, I'm going to foot stomp that our mission of the TAK Product Center, representing the TAK ecosystem, is to empower TAK users. That's never going to change, and I don't think it ever has changed, and that's been the defining factor of TAK. Even when acquisition challenges arise, when politics arise, the focus always stays on the user, and there's some incredible people that have enabled that focus. The vision, and where we're going to get into, is this model of TAK continuous delivery. A lot of the building blocks are already in place, and as I've talked to people here and beforehand, a lot of people have some idea of what's out there. There are a lot of tools that enable things like continuous delivery, but we're going to try to start tying those things together. In other words, where there is a manual process, where there's a robotic process to get TAK in the hands of a user, we want to start attacking those seams. We want to start getting after how do we automate the small things so that we can accomplish even bigger objectives in a great power competition. And I just want to clarify, when I say continuous delivery, it doesn't necessarily mean Kubernetes, it doesn't necessarily mean CI/CD, it doesn't necessarily mean pipelines, it doesn't necessarily mean DevOps. All these things are contributors, they're themes that enable continuous delivery, and if you look at the current landscape of continuous delivery, whether that's with Tesla or SpaceX, hat tip Elon Musk, or if you look at or Air Force organizations like Kessel Run and Platform One, or if you look at the modern FANG organizations like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, Microsoft, they focus on continuous delivery in very different ways. But the reason these organizations are successful and their users are successful and can do the things they need to do is because these organizations have a relentless focus on continuous delivery of both the applications, the end user facing applications, and the content that enables those applications. You're going to see that as a theme throughout the period of this update. So we'll look at TAK.gov first. TAK.gov launched this summer. Really great capability. We fought tooth and nail to make sure it was TAK.gov and not the easier road in some ways of TAK.mil or something like that. TAK.gov is an interagency whole of government effort, and so TAK.gov is a real thing. All of you are here because you registered on TAK.gov for credentials. We've seen user growth grow rapidly at a linear to slightly above linear pace from 0 all the way up to pushing north of 6,000 users. We expect that to continue to grow linearly. We don't see any reason why that trend should actually slow down. And really, we lean on the ecosystem, everybody that's paying attention here today, to help us continue growing that. And there's reasons for that. I'll get into those in a few minutes. This is a dated chart. We're collecting more information on the growth of the TAK ecosystem, fielded systems. The reason we'd like people to focus on TAK.gov registration is because when we message to senior leaders the impact of TAK, the most crystal clear metric we can use is the number of users. Now, you've seen throughout the years, we've come back every year with an updated figure on the numbers. A lot of those numbers are based on best estimates, but if we're steering people to TAK.gov, whether they are local law enforcement, whether they're federal law enforcement, whether they're foreign military partners, or whether they are U.S. military members themselves, by people registering on TAK.gov, it enables two things. One, it enables us to track that ecosystem at a much more finely grained level and represent those numbers to senior leadership, make increasingly better cases for investments in TAK. But two, it helps us tell a better story of that growth, and it helps us reach users in a better fashion, in a more robust fashion in terms of communicating pending product releases, major version releases, minor version releases. And so the more people we can bring to TAK.gov, a government site, a government platform, the more we can reach users in official capacities through official channels. So in theory, charts like this are an afterthought. They're really just a reflection of where we've gone with the previous kind of plot. One thing that I wanted to bring up that is also newer as of this year is ATAK Civ being released in the Google Play Store. Now, you see, we actually have a number of users. So we're currently at 39,000 active devices in 135 countries. That is way more than we have FMS cases. People are seeing utility for TAK. Now, if you question why are we letting people in 135 countries download TAK? Well, ATAK Civ, as most of you know, if not all of you know, does not represent any of the military proprietary capabilities. It's a reflection of the capabilities that we've gone through the really rigorous public release process for. And so if you're going to go take ATAK Mill into a combat theater, you should feel comfortable knowing that the capabilities you have as a military operator are distinct and unique and set you apart from the generic TAK user. So just because there's 135 countries represented in Google Play does not mean they have a capability that's on par with your capability on your kit. What I want to call out here is one of the things Google Play Store allows us to do, which Apple App Store will allow us to do soon once we've released ITAC through the Apple App Store, is reliability, tracking reliability. This is great. This is something that has been elusive for a long time. We can now authoritatively say that 99.9% of the time, which we can make better, but is pretty good for now, in normal course of operations, people using ATAK on the day-to-day, ATAK is highly resilient. ATAK stays up and operational, which is great for an edge product. And then finally, our ratings aren't too bad. Ratings have improved actually over time. With the most recent release cycle, we're at a 4.4 out of 4 stars. I think generally in the commercial sector, you're content if you're over 4 stars, you're always going for over 4.5, but 4.4 for a government-developed product isn't bad. We'll see where ITAK takes us on the App Store. It might be a competition. We'll highlight our products. So we've got 8 what we would consider products that we distribute through tak.gov. ATAK, obviously, WebTAK is an up-and-coming product that we think has a lot of potential. I want to call that out because we're actually in the process of doing a tech transition agreement between the TAK Product Center and DTRA R&D. That's going to be great because that officially will, with the consent of both DTRA leadership and TAK Product Center, bring WebTAK over to be officially configuration controlled by the TAK Product Center. Now, why is WebTAK important? Who's gone through the pain of deploying WinTAK to 10 users, to 100 users, to 1,000 users? Now, WebTAK isn't quite on par with WinTAK right now, but programs like Mission Command and SOCOM are enabling that. There's investment going toward that right now, not for SOCOM's use, but for everybody's use. So as that tech transition agreement is executed, we'll have the development support behind it to where we can continuously improve that product. And we think that investment will continue from a variety of organizations, but expect WebTAK to play an increasingly larger role in the TAK community. ITAK is on the verge of Apple App Store release. We're just on the verge of completing a public release approval process with DHS S&T. But that is going to be out there, and we're going to see a similar degree of configuration control and deployment automation through the Apple App Store. Everybody should be really excited about that because that matters to everybody from the local to federal law enforcement officer to potentially aircrew, military aircrew. They all use iPads. They use electronic flight bags. We can bring them to the next level with TAK once it's in the App Store. WinTAK is alive and well. Just want to clarify the kind of the vision between WinTAK and our emerging product, which we'll talk about on the next slide, which you hear a lot about this week, TAK-X. WinTAK is still being fully supported. We don't have a sunset date for WinTAK. If that emerges organically over time where there's significantly more users transitioning to the Mac, Linux, Windows compilation of TAK-X than there are WinTAK, then we'll consider a sunset. But for right now, if you're a WinTAK user or if you support WinTAK users, don't worry about WinTAK being just turned off. It's still being robustly supported. TAK Server is the glue that kind of keeps it all together. And so we've got some exciting things going on with TAK Server that you're going to hear about through this week. We're seeing investment right now actually in authentication for CAC and PIV users to TAK Server. I think that's going to be a game changer because it brings us into a more legitimized capacity with DoD PKI. ARTAC and VTAC are these kind of, along with WebTAC, they're up and coming products. They've been developed to a certain level of maturity. And we're working right now to figure out where the investment in the future years is going to be for those products. And then, of course, the plugin ecosystem, which is why many of you are here, because you're plugin developers, and plugins allow you to tailor TAK to any mission set. I mentioned a term earlier that this is a good opportunity to clarify. TAK is a family of platforms. What's a platform? A platform is anything that reduces the cognitive burden on a team delivering value. So if you're a plugin developer, or even if you're a program office, you're delivering value, usable value to some user. The beauty of the TAK family of platforms, everything here except for the plugin ecosystem, is that they reduce the cognitive burden on developers. That's the magic of these core products going forward, is that they allow any developer to come forward, authenticate with tak.gov, and begin developing for a very particular value stream that reaches some users somewhere. And so the plugin ecosystem you can consider as this combination of applications that live on top of these robust, mature, deployable platforms. We'll speak to TAKX briefly. I won't steal the thunder from the TAKX team because they've got a really great story to tell. There was a question last year at the previous configuration steering board meeting as to whether the CSB wanted to invest in TAKX. The CSB deferred a vote on investing in TAKX. Another customer stepped up and said, hey, we will provide basically your Series A funding to go develop TAKX. TAKX is a combination of RaptorX map engine and the TAK plugin API and communications. And so it's a really great product. It's cross-platform deployable. They just recently reached a minimum viable product state. You're going to hear a lot more about TAKX this week, especially in the developer sessions. Now, I got to tell you some irony about this chart. I created the beta version of this chart, I think, in a hurry. I was getting ready to go brief someone. This was back in 2015. I imagine my surprise when I pull up the latest TAK Product Center charts, and it's this one all over again, but they made it look a lot better than I did back when I was at AFRL. I think this chart probably doesn't tell most of the people here much they don't already know, but if you're new to the TAK community, you should know that what has made TAK so widely proliferated is, what has enabled TAK to be so widely proliferated is the easy extensibility of TAK by way of plugins, by way of core communication capabilities to so many different communication means. LTE, IP over LAN, these things are table stakes. It's the hard stuff like Link 16, handheld Link 16, saddle, 117 Gulfs, 117 Fox, all your different GPS receivers. These are the things that make TAK so relevant on the battlefield. Gotennas, Beartooths, these wonderful commercial products, commercial just like the commercial devices that we run on. All these things enable TAK. And so maybe that's something that's kind of lost on us in the TAK ecosystem, that take plugins and communication APIs and radios for granted, is look at all the commercial technology that TAK exists from. TAK doesn't happen unless all these commercial products are enabled. All this venture capital has been poured into these products, like some of the commercial radios that we're able to use in TAK. And so if you're new to the TAK ecosystem, know that while TAK Product Center is extremely lean and the community itself is comprised of a variety of different organizations, communication on the battlefield and everywhere in between and globally across the globe is what has enabled TAK to scale. So we as an organization, like I said, are very lean. So we serve 200,000 plus users, best guess at this point in time. We serve about 2,000 developers and then 6,000 people that are actually on tak.gov actively engaged in the ecosystem. So if you look at those numbers, we are really small, but it's because we're comprised of just some really great, committed people. Where you can envision this chart changing over time is to be less about hierarchy and more about flow. I envision my role at the TAK Product Center 100% as enabling the people who enable the users. That is my job, is to make sure that there's someone out front lead blocking for the individuals that are trying to get value in front of users. So we're very pleasantly augmented by PEO SDA. That's been a great relationship. PEO SDA took over the chair position of the configuration steering board over the past year, and we're finding that that's a really fruitful relationship to where PEO SDA can help us advocate for capabilities, sometimes at a congressional level or at senior DoD levels, but they can also take some of that program management responsibility and offload that from us so our people can be more focused about the mission and getting that platform-centric value out in the hands of the development community. We're going to break a little bit from kind of the TAK narrative. What I want to discuss now is this concept of continuous delivery and why. Why is continuous delivery important specifically? I'd love to show the video. It's about 20 minutes long, probably not appropriate for right now, but I encourage you to go watch it. A guy named Simon Sinek, he's a world famous author, has written Start With Why, has written Leaders Eat Last, and some other great books. Simon has a really great TED Talk from 2009, actually, at a TEDx, I think, in Vancouver, maybe. That's what I linked to here. It's incredibly relevant to the TAK ecosystem. We've always cared about why. Why did we develop ATAK in the first place? It was so guys like Yosh could stop having to choose between taking extra water in the ruck and taking their encryptor. But the future of TAK is broader than that. The future of TAK is broader than any one mission like digitally aided close air support or search and rescue missions. It's broader than federal law enforcement. It's broader than local law enforcement and wildland fire. It's about how do we enable the user to perform at levels that they really haven't been able to achieve in the past 20 years. This is more of a numbers game, I think. There's a book that I encourage you to take a look at. It's called Accelerate. So we're applying some theory to the TAK ecosystem here, but bear with me. What Accelerate does is it shows us a really powerful narrative. It's a data-driven narrative. It's empirical data. 30,000 users across the software ecosystem were interviewed for for 5 years in a row, and they continue to be interviewed. Accelerate, it just captures the knowledge at one point in time a couple years ago. What the knowledge from this research showed the software community is that DevOps actually has a mission impact. It has an impact, if you're a corporate entity, to the bottom line. There's a direct correlation, a strong correlation between how often you deliver software and the quality of your software to how you perform in the marketplace. TAK performs in the national security marketplace. And if we extrapolate current events to, let's say, the Slovakia Gap or the Asia Pacific region, we've got to be a lot better at delivering software. We've got to be a lot better at quality, at speed. And here's the irony here. The DoD, if we trace back to McNamara era policies, the Packard Commission, we are exceedingly good at quality, but it takes 18 months for quality to get to the field, 24 months and beyond for quality to reach the hands of the user. When we look at numbers like these that are empirically derived and that separate organizations from between low-performing organizations and high-performing and elite-performing organizations, we've got to focus in the future on how frequently we can deliver quality. Flow and quality are really hard things to achieve together, and I think there's many people that will attest to that, but people have done it. And so where we're gonna drive TAK over the next 10 years is toward increasing deployment frequency, enabling increased deployment frequency, and enabling improved quality, continuously improved quality of our products. I think we'd all agree that the products that reach the field right now are pretty high quality because we have a pretty robust test ecosystem. And we get a lot of robust feedback from developers as well, and we can respond pretty quickly to change and fix things. Some of that's going on now, actually. But we need to concern ourselves with what conflict looks like. And where the national security marketplace actually fits into that. So graphically, if we look at where we are across the DoD and some of the U.S. government, not all of it, because don't get me wrong, some organizations in the government outside the DoD have cracked this, and some even inside the DoD. We deploy at really low frequencies. We deploy once every 6 months or 12 months or 24 months, somewhere in there. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of us are constrained by policy. Some of us are constrained by technology. There's a lot of constraints. We're not going to solve those constraints necessarily for you as organizations that field TAK to users. What we can do is put the building blocks in place to allow you to field faster, to have higher confidence when you go into those accreditation processes, to enable you to test quality at scale, whether it's devices replicated at scale in a test landscape before it actually reaches a deployable state. We look at that process right now. TAK doesn't necessarily face the requirements process that we typically face in the DoD. Because if you're fielding TAK in a DoD program, you've already sourced a requirement that says TAK probably is a good solution. So you have TAK available to you currently. Basically, we're not going to be able to solve that problem, that kind of that gray block for you of how do you get from flash to bang, of a validated requirement if that's what's required, or all the way to a program is awarded and funded and staffed. Well, we can help you accelerate over the coming years, over the coming months and years. And we're already doing it through tak.gov, is equipping teams that are going to develop within TAK and use TAK as an enabling capability as part of the program baseline, the technical baseline that you field, within the constraints of DoD 5000. We're not going to change that. We can help you accelerate the process of getting value delivered to the user significantly. Some organizations that use TAK right now will actually take the latest release, accept the risk of that release intelligently, and field the latest release. Other organizations are severely constrained there. We don't aim to deploy product for you. We aim to allow you to deploy product as fast as your constraints will allow. And so we want to make it easier to get past those constraints. The bottom line is we all serve a high-performing user of some variety, all the way from local PD up to national mission force users. They're high performers. DoD acquisitions writ large, and I'm going to zoom back into TAK here in a minute. DoD acquisitions writ large cannot sustain what is categorically low performance for the great power competition that we face right now. So as you're leaving the offsite this week, as you're going through conversations, as you're having conversations afterward, approaching me, approaching TAK Product Center, have it in your mind, maybe less how we can generate the next leap ahead feature in TAK. There's going to be plenty of that. Focus on flow. Ask us the hard questions about how we can help you solve for things like risk management framework and ATOs and quality requirements and automated test. Ask us those questions. Those are the problems that we want to enable each of you to solve, whether you're a program manager or a software engineer or a user. We want to help you receive product fast and with high quality. So let's look at the next 10 years, and specifically, this is me signing up for a commitment. My commitment to the TAK community, now that I'm in the seat, I'm in front of you, I'm public, I'm visible. Number one priority is always to deliver usable platform improvements on predictable timelines so you can get them to your users. We think those predictable timelines, while they may not be on the daily basis, they enable you to field capability via plugins on potentially a daily basis. Make those fast turns, and you have the confidence of a TAK platform behind you and the high quality that comes with it. Second, and this is consistent with the first slide that we discussed, our commitment is always foremost to the users. We're always going to remain engaged with those users, whether that's the product center being out in the field with them, or whether that's you as the developers and the program managers. Whatever we can do to enable you to be closer with your users through Mattermost, Slack, Discord, being in person, having the right products to take to them, the right configurations, that's where our interests are. As far as developers go, and you're going to see some of this as we talk about the TAK roadmap here, next slide, you'll see that our commitment to empowering developers is only going to grow, is only going to improve and increase in magnitude, at least over the next couple years, because where we empower and we enable developers are then able to take our platforms and ship them faster to users and ship better features. You'll see a manifestation of number 4 on the next slide is to continuously curate a roadmap. We're engaged in something really cool right now at the TAK Product Center, where we bring in as many people who are willing to participate from kind of the configuration steering board audience and from the TAK Product Center. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday afternoon for an hour, with few exceptions, we get together and we pull a target off the board, so to speak, and we scope that target. We've got a template that we follow. Everything you're going to see roadmap-wise on the next slide is subject to a rigorous process of road mapping and collaborative road mapping at that. So that's in progress right now, and I think that's going to start yielding results even beyond what we've already experienced with TAK, which is great. Expect our mission and vision statements to be succinct, but expect them to be closely aligned with the national security strategy and national defense strategy. I think what you're going to see is our mission and vision, even if national security and national defense policy iterate and change, our focus probably won't diverge much from where they are right now, because it enables a broad focus and it keeps us accountable to providing cutting-edge products and platforms to you to enable your users. And then finally, we employ funds from a number of different organizations, from a number of different CSB, Configuration Steering Board organizations, and others at that, whether they come through the TAK Product Center to vehicles that we have access to or through other vehicles throughout the community. You have our commitment that we're always going to responsibly steward those funds. This offsite is one great example of how we're stewarding funds from SDA actually, and making this event happen. But there's so many other ways that we can continue to steward funds in ways that serve you, so you can serve your developers, so you can serve your users, whoever that reciprocating end of the serving may be. That's where we're going to put investment, is things that always enable people to do great things with TAK. All right, so the fun part. The roadmap. Where are we going with TAK? And I hope this is kind of where some of the hard questions come over the next few days. You're going to see that we are taking an increasing focus to mapping where we go, to mapping these things in our online tools and dev tools. So you'll actually see that this roadmap in a simpler form is actually present in Jira. That's going to allow us to map the roadmap of TAK to the things that we work on as they're prioritized by the CSB on a regular basis. You'll see that first one, that may turn your head a little bit, AI/ML. We've not focused, I'd say significantly, on artificial intelligence and machine learning applications in TAK. Obviously, we have things like Project Maven doing things both for wildland fire and for combat operations. There's some really cool stuff going on right now in the defense R&D community, and especially at AFRL. We expect, in kind of that second horizon in that time frame, to be able to start bringing TAK ML, which is a framework for deploying machine learning applications in TAK efficiently, into TAK Core. ATAK is probably the kind of the go-to-market candidate for TAK in machine learning in TAK. Don't expect us to be necessarily pushing out algorithms that allow you to do object recognition in TAK, but expect us to be putting the investments into making those types of algorithms possible. We mentioned that we're constantly improving the developer experience, and the tools and processes that go along with DevOps, we've already got a great culture. If you look at what enables DevOps and continuous delivery, it's about the culture, the process, and the tools. So we've got a great culture. We've got a pretty robust process for managing development, managing releases. But where you're going to see some of our investment go over the next year is toward things like self-service pipelines. That's a really big deal, because if you go to get accreditation for a deployable configuration of TAK, you've got to build your plugins together so they can be signed together. By enabling self-service pipelines in GitLab CI versus Jenkins, we're empowering any developer in the TAK ecosystem to not require a Jenkins license, and then to go build their own pipelines for their own value stream that results in fielded capability. I think that's meaningful because it allows us to start to decouple TAK Product Center core development from the processes that result in value being delivered to the field. And that's one way that we hope to make the fielding process less friction, reduce the friction in the fielding process, and make that process faster for you. If we look at enterprise delivery, this is kind of wide-ranging. But one thing that we can do is ensure that content, for example, is available globally to anybody who needs it. We've got a great capability in Tactics. It's funded largely by National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA. Tactics, if you haven't used it, use it. If you're a Title 10 user, it allows you to pull down really high-resolution imagery and really high-resolution elevation data directly to an endpoint and load that onto TAK. It's not fully automated to TAK, but it's better than you're going to get natively in TAK with some of the native endpoints we have. Why this matters is we host in one region and 3 availability zones within that region. Consider what Tactics would do for the global warfighter, for the US warfighter, if they were able to access TAK imagery and content elevation data anywhere in the world with low latency. That's a game changer. And we think content delivery, global content delivery, is one of the strategic directions that we can take the TAK Product Center in, is providing that global content delivery. That's going to take some time to get toward, but again, some of the fundamental building blocks are in place. Mentioned that security, specifically the enterprise CAC and PIV authentication, that's already in the works. Don't know exactly when you're going to see that in a platform release, but I don't think it's going to be any more than 2 or 3 TAK platform minor releases, minor versions down the field. So 4.6, 4.7 perhaps. And then training is always kind of this elusive thing where we've put some resources up on the website. Many people have gone and developed their own training curricula. We think there's a really powerful way to standardize and centralize training offerings for TAK. Not that we're looking to, omit any offerings that are already out there, because there's a lot of good ones. But how can we make training more holistic in nature? How can we make training more connected between the actual academic experience and the setup of a classroom network, or the setup of classroom devices that you then go take out in the field that directly reflect what you just saw in your academic training? So there's some cool stuff that we can do there. And then finally, expect continuous improvement of the ATAK user interface. Expect continuous improvement of all of the TAK user interfaces. We don't do major rollovers of TAK user interfaces regularly. That's intentional. There's a lot of muscle memory that go into that. But you'll notice that if you're using TAK 4.5, ATAK 4.5, specifically the version that's in the Google Play Store, it looks a bit different. Who's got 4.5? Who's played with 4.5 to date? All right. So play with it. Give us your feedback. If it doesn't fit the bill, we sincerely do want to know that. We're already making some small pivots based on feedback we've received from FBI. And we've got that genuine commitment to the community to respond to that feedback as it comes in. All right, so I think one of the most important things we can do is just highlight where we expect the delivery cadence to be. We mentioned 4.5, ATAK 4.5 is released. Expect the WinTAK and TAK Server 4.5 releases to follow in due time. Now, I've highlighted a few things here: TAKX, WebTAK, and TAKX. We mentioned those were newer products. We do think that that TAKX will play a major role in the community. We think that WebTAK will play a major role in the community as we scale, as organizations scale their usage of TAK as they go from 20 to 30 to 100,000 users and beyond. Some product has to tackle the scalability of addressing that many users in a secure fashion. And so expect investment to continue to go toward WebTAK. Expect that tech transition agreement to be finalized in the near future so that TAK Product Center begin configuration managing WebTAK in the spring of 2022. And then, like I said, ITAK is kind of on the precipice, so we're eagerly awaiting that public release approval to be complete. Watchtower. Who's heard of Watchtower? Okay, Watchtower is awesome. Watchtower is a capability that PMNet Warrior has developed for mobile device management. Conversations have been there between TAK Product Center and PMNet Warrior. Very close relationship, obviously. Conversation for some time. Watchtower is developed for configuration management of edge devices and user devices. NetWarrior uses it at scale. It's got an analytics capability. I've left that as kind of an ambiguous, hey, it's a PMNet Warrior thing, but I bring it up here because we do expect that to become an official TAK Product Center product. And that's going to be a big deal because while it may not have direct parity to things like AirWatch or MobileIron, we think that there's great value in a government-owned, unlimited rights mobile device management capability that can be deployed directly through tak.gov. I'd be pretty excited about that if I were you. Okay, so to summarize, our strategic focus shift is moving from features to continuous delivery, which includes those features. So where we've been able to, over the past 10 plus years, get to some really robust platforms that are used in every combat theater, every major national event. We think the real value over the next 10 years in great power competition is in our ability to empower continuous delivery of TAK and the platforms therein. I think it's always necessary to capture the essence of TAK. So TAK is great in terms of what it does for the end user, great geospatial world-class geospatial capabilities, highly extensible situational awareness, command and control. But there's a fundamental essence to TAK that has made it what it is, and it is that TAK is always open source within the government and beyond. It is always government off the shelf. The government always makes it available. We make it available because we're empowered by the CSB to do so. And it's always unlimited rights. If you encounter something that has TAK in the label that's not unlimited rights, question whether it is TAK. We've discussed with multiple organizations, both in industry and in the government recently, what constitutes a TAK product? What constitutes a TAK platform? It's not unlimited rights, if it's not GOTS, and it's not open source, at least within the government, it's probably not part of the TAK product line. And a real easy razor here to apply. Is it hosted on tak.gov in our repository? That represents the authoritative TAK baseline. If there's organizations out there that want to bring new TAK platforms to our portfolio, we want to do that. We want to get the best capability in the hands of users that need that capability. But we need to be very careful to not conflate TAK interoperability with TAK product line. The TAK product line is tak.gov. We're very open with that, and we're pushing to make more of our products truly open source on GitHub like you find ATAK right now. But this is the hallmark of TAK because it enables everybody to come into it and deliver it. So I'm happy to take any questions. We've got vanity, call it what you will. My LinkedIn profile up on the left, TAK Product Center LinkedIn, that's a new thing up on the right. Snap a picture of that, follow TAK Product Center. We're eager to kind of get the public profile of TAK Product Center boosted and out there more. And we think LinkedIn is one mechanism to do that, and certainly happy to connect with you, have discussions on there as well. What questions can I answer for this community, online or in the room? think Charlie's going to walk up with the mic. He'll get you.
Check, check.
Cool. Charlie, you got one here in the middle?
You mentioned about empowering developers and such. What kind of form do you see that taking? I mean, is it hackathons or
Sure.
funding or tools or whatever?
That's a great question. So we've done some cool things in the past with like RapidX and Hack the TAK. Expect those events as we return to, it's evident here, some sense of normalcy in public gatherings. Expect those events to take on a bit more of a regular cadence. Hack the TAK specifically happened once. We've got direct input from the CSB now to go make that an annual event. So that's more kind of on the strategic annual cadence. Expect many more improvements to come as far as getting things built in the configurations you need them and the tools that you need. If there's tools that we're missing in TAK.gov dev tools, for example, anybody should feel free and able to bring that to our attention, and we can make sure we prioritize new tools to enable you accordingly. Yeah. What other questions?
Hi, from the public safety arena, do you guys have plans to have more of a faster setup time in, say, events like the Las Vegas, where you have a whole bunch of volunteer groups holding a big concert with public safety and security? How to integrate TAK on a temporary basis, but a much bigger scale for big events for domestic terrorism?
That's a great question, and there's something that I learned about only in recent months that I think everybody needs to know about. The FBI hosts a TAK server that anybody CONUS can use for national events, for security, for emergencies, what have you. Mike Tigan can get you equipped there. But there actually is a capability that I think hasn't really seen the light of day in the right channels. And so that's something that the Bureau provides for government use all the way from federal level to state and local law enforcement, first responder agencies. There really are no limits on who can connect to it beyond being authenticated as a user with need to know. And so Mike would be the best person to contact about that, and I think there's a lot of utility to be had there.
You go, Jason. Just in response to that question, when Nash gets up and talks tomorrow about DARPA Share,
Yeah.
The ability to include within your architecture a peer-to-peer environment as opposed to having to have a TAK-centric, server-centric hub and spoke network. Hopefully we can have a follow-on discussion, because I think we're actually integrating Share, our configuration manager, into Watchtower. So it could give you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to quickly establish user groups to be able to share over whatever network you want to. So I just kind of plant that seed for tomorrow.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks.
Cool. What other questions? Don't let me off the hook like that. Okay. Well, be around all week, and look forward to shaking hands and having conversations about this stuff with as many people as I can. Thank you very much.